Okay, the next step for us on this chair is to remove all the cotton padding and the foam rubber that's on here, because we want to replace that with horsehair. So we're going to strip this all down to at least to the burlap, and we'll also have to make some repairs on the frame. We'll be demonstrating how that's done, and we may have to replace some of the burlap. We'll have to see what kind of shape that's in when we get down there. It might be easier sometimes to just go ahead and cut this webbing with a good sharp pair of shears, and you can also go along and just cut the spring twine, and you can just go back and clean the frame up afterwards. Makes it a little easier trying to work around this ball of spring. Okay, we've got the springs out, and I cleaned up the underside of the frame. Next we're going to get this burlap off the deck, and also this would be a good time to go around your frame and check for any staples that may have broken off, or any staples you missed, or any tacks, anything left over from being upholstered in the past. It'd be a good time now to clean the frame all up and get them off. If you have some staples that broke off and you aren't able to pull them out, just take your tack hammer and you can hammer those in flush. That'll keep you from getting caught and cutting yourself on those as you're flipping this frame around and working on it. Okay, as you can see, the base of this wing is broken. I have the broken piece here, and at some point in time this has been repaired in the past, and there's old glue on here, and that's going to have to be cleaned off because the new glue is not going to like to stick to the old glue for any length of time. So we're going to clean this up. We will glue these two pieces back together and reattach the base of this arm. Reattach the base of this wing onto this arm. At the top of the wing, we find two screws from a previous repair, and the wing's pretty loose, so I'm fairly confident that if we just remove these two screws, this whole wing will be able to come off this chair and be repaired as a unit. Well, we went ahead and took the other wing off. There wasn't anything broken on that wing, but it was loose. So I figured we'd take it off, clean the glue up, and re-glue it. What I'm going to do is tip this chair upside down so that I can demonstrate the process involved in webbing the foundation. For this procedure, you will need a good pair of shears. You should use some red webbing, a staple gun, a webbing stretcher, and I like to use half-inch staples in the gun. I will also demonstrate a way to do this if you do not have a staple gun, using tacks and a tack hammer. You should make 2 rows of staples. And then your excess piece can be folded over, and you'll put another row of staples there, getting in between the first 2 that you made on the underside. Okay, once you have one side attached, you can bring the other end over to the other side of the frame, and we will use the webbing stretcher here. We'll apply a little bit of pressure on here, we'll stretch the webbing snug, and we will do the same procedure with the staples on this side that we did on the other side. What you can do, if you like, is you can go ahead and put your neck strip at the bottom, spacing it where you'd like it to be. and then you can go back and fill in the center. Okay, to start the weaving process here, this is just what's called a basket weave, and it doesn't matter how you start. You can start your first strand under or over, whatever you like to do, but be under, over, and under. Of course, to give you the basket weave pattern. Now, as you'll notice, most chairs are on a wedge. They're a little wider in the front than they are in the back. I like to start my webbing out to match that angle that's on there. And then what we'll do is in the middle, we'll kind of straighten them out a little bit. It'll give like a fan pattern. Now these are a special tack. These are actually what's called a number 14 webbing tack. The hammer is handy because it has a magnetic tip on the end. That helps hold the tack for you when you got your hands busy. The way I like to do this is I like to put 3 tacks across the bottom, one in the middle, and then one out on each end. Then we'll fold the excess over and we'll put 1 tack right in the middle, so we have 2 on the top here. Then on the top, it's the same procedure as on the bottom. Put your webbing stretcher in place. This is where having the magnetic tip on the hammer comes in handy. Now the tacks and the tack hammer are a great way to do this. If you're doing this at home as a hobby, or you only plan on doing 1 or 2 chairs, it's a minimal investment as compared to a staple gun, an air compressor, an air hose, and all that. That can be pretty significant price if you're only planning on doing a chair or 2 now and again. So if you don't want to go to the expense of that, but you want to do your chair at home, definitely consider these tacks and the tack hammer. They upholstered chairs like this for hundreds of years, and there are some traditionalists out there that will say if you're restoring an old wing chair like this, that's the way you should do it. You should use the tacks, and I understand their point. It certainly is the proper way to do that, but I also think if you're trying to make that decision at home, something that you should also be aware of is that tacks are built on a wedge. They have a sharp tip at the, where the tack goes into the wood, and it gets thicker up near the head of the tack. And that puts a lot of stress on the wood as it wants to push the wood fibers apart. Staples don't do that. They are a constant diameter from tip to the end, and they don't tend to split your wood or make it want to come apart like a tack will. So in some cases you may want to use the tack, and in some cases you may want to use a staple, depending on what you're doing, what your wood is like, and how important it is to you to have it done in an authentic manner in every way possible. I usually just use staples unless I have a customer that specifically wants it restored and used with tacks. Then of course we will use a tacks. Now to put the webbing on the other side of the chair, first thing you want to do is you're going to want to figure out how many strips of webbing you're going to use across the front. If you don't do that, you're liable to come up miswoven. So I've already gone ahead and figured this out, and we're going to use 5 strands across the front. So what we have, looking at it from the bottom, we have an over, under, over, under, over. So I'm going to want to start this strand in the over position. Okay, we have the second strand all put on, and you can start to see the weave pattern taking shape. So I'll go ahead, put the next one on here for you. So what we can do now is we'll turn our attention to tying some springs in here.